Hi everyone, I'm Evangeline here at eTrailer. Today we have the Hollywood Racks Destination E electric bike rack, and we're gonna see how well it fits here on our 2024 Jeep Grand Wagoneer L. I can say right off of the bat that it is a great fit, mainly because the Grand Wagoneer L is a pretty tall vehicle, so a lot of bike racks sit pretty tall too. So if you have heavy electric bikes, chances are you're gonna have to lift them pretty high up to get onto the bike rack. But since the Destination E has an included ramp and is really designed for those heavy electric bikes, this is gonna be a great fit for you if you have a heavy bike. What's also impressive is going to be the tilt, or rather drop, of this bike rack. Since you have a really large hatch door on your Grand Wagoneer, you really need a bike rack that tilts a decent amount in order to get access to your cargo in there. But with the Destination E, it has a unique design to its tilting feature. See how we have this knob over here? Well, all you need to do is loosen the knob to the point where you can push that out of the way. And from there, you can then either brace yourself against the vehicle and push out, or you can pull on the bikes towards you, and then this rack will drop down a lot. So once you have that down there, you can then open up the hatch door. So see over here how much clearance we have between our door, our mast, but also between the mast of the bike rack, and then bring that up over here. Plenty of space. So not where you make contact with anything, you can reach in here, grab whatever you need, even if you have your larger bags, your waters, your helmets, things like that. Now I have it set to be more of a manual push, just because with other bike racks, you want to make sure you have clearance before you open up the door. And this just gives that peace of mind, knowing that it will be all good. Now you just lift the bike rack up and then tighten that knob right back down. And just like that, you're ready to drive off and away again. The reason it can have such an extreme tilt is because this rack has multiple points of contact on the bike. So just for the wheels alone, you have 3 straps, 1 and 2 for the front wheel and another in the back. And then you also have your frame mount. So this uses your claw style frame mounts, which goes over and tightens down. I like this style mainly for the fact that this has a lock included on it, and that way instead of having to deal with large cable locks, you can secure just the knob. Now the downside to it though is it is contact on your frame compared to other racks that used wheel mount only styles. That is a difference. I think it's fine though, especially since this is versatile enough that even if you have a step through bike, you can put that mount pretty much anywhere you want on the frame. Now I removed all the wheel straps, but before I remove that frame mount so that I'm ready to remove the bike, let's talk about the ramp. So this ramp is included, it extends out, but it also only attaches to the rear cradle of your bike. So that is something to consider when setting it up. Sometimes I just jump over to the other side if I was only able to unload the bike from one side. Now, I'm gonna then loosen this frame mount. And then once that's loose, I'm holding the bike with one hand. Gonna lift this up and over. And now I can ramp this bike down. So something to note here is how steep this is even with the ramp. And that's because the Grand Wagoneer is really high up. But another thing too is that that's a lot of height that I would have had to lift down if this was an extra heavy electric bike. So with that in mind, while this did feel kind of clunky, the perks are that was definitely a lot easier compared to having to hoist the bike up and hoist it back down. Now before I take some measurements though with how it sits on the Grand Wagoneer, let me show you real quick how to fold this down away to get prepped for the compact position. So we have these straps on each side. Remove those straps and then push down these levers. And then that way you can just push that whole mast down, and then these go right back up and then are secured again with those straps. You also have to double check the hook and loop straps for those frame mounts to make sure that those are secured too. So there's a lot of extra little bits and pieces that you do have to work with and not forget in order to get the function out of this rack. So I like the functions. I wish it was a little easier to do though. When we're talking about ground clearance and height up off the ground, wow, if you measure from the end of the rack to the ground, that's 26 inches. And about here towards the center where your wheels are going to sit, that's 33 inches. We're getting close to 3 feet. So you can see why having a ramp on bike racks for this vehicle is so helpful. But the next measurement is also going to be how compact does this then make your bike rack? Well, measuring from that bumper end, which is right by where the hitch is, to the end of the bike rack, that's 32 inches. And that's when this mast is up. So it's going to be pretty normal for a 2-bike rack, pretty medium when it comes to compact or how much space it takes up, but it's still something to consider if you have a small garage or need to park into a tight spot, because your Jeep Grand Wagoneer L is already going to take up a lot of room. To save on some room, you can fold the rack up, but it starts by removing that clip so that you can release this pin. Usually it has a string that attaches it, but I did break that string off pretty quickly. But that's okay, because you can just hold on to that with one hand as you fold your bike rack up, and then you just secure it again with that pin and the clip. This is going to be a slightly different spot compared to where you took it out from, so just double check that to make sure you've actually secured your rack. So much better compared to when this was folded down. Taking a measurement again for the end of the vehicle, this time to the end of the bike rack, that's only 16 inches. So this is also how you'll have it when you're driving around town, not just for compactness, but also for safety. More people are going to be likely to see your bike rack when it's folded up compared to when it is in a down position. Folded up like this, you can also see your visibility, most of your windows visible. Taillights are mainly still visible. The license plate fits perfectly within that opening of the bike rack. And your backup camera sits in this spot over here. So you're going to have actually a surprisingly good visibility. Through your backup camera, you will definitely see your bike rack, but you'll also still be able to see if there's any people or cars going right behind you. All in all, this performed really well in terms of features. This has a 70-pound weight capacity for those heavier bikes. We haven't included a ramp. This was strong and sturdy and doesn't take up too much room behind the vehicle. Now when it comes to looks, it's not quite the sleekest bike rack, but I still think it looks good, but that's also more of a personal preference. Now, as for the downsides, it would definitely be, there was a lot of little levers and straps and things I had to make sure I did right to make sure that the bike was properly secured. And that could be a lot if you just finished a whole bike ride or you just want to get out onto the road. If that's going to be an issue for you, something I would recommend instead is the Rocky Mounts Gigawatt. That also has a high weight capacity, and it also has a ramp included, but it has a more streamlined look to it, and it does sit a little bit lower compared to the Destination E. Because when it comes to this vehicle, ground clearance is not an issue. In fact, you may have too much ground clearance, so I always recommend using a ramp when possible. So hopefully this video helped you out with seeing how this was going to fit on your vehicle. I still think it's a good fit for most situations, even when you don't have to carry around a heavy electric bike. Now, if you have any questions, let us know. But today you saw the Hollywood Rack's Destination E electric bike rack here on the 2024 Jeep Grand Wagoneer L.